Hey everyone, and welcome back to another Explainer. I'm so thrilled to have you all here today because, well, we're tackling something that literally affects almost every single one of us on a daily basis. We are looking at the massive, sudden, and honestly pretty exciting disappearance of transfer fees across major Philippine banks. It's a genuine revolution in digital banking, and today we're going to break down exactly how it happened, who's involved, and most importantly, what it means for your wallet.
Okay, so just imagine this for a second. What if sending money to absolutely any bank didn't cost you a single peso? No extra charges, nothing. For years, we've all just kind of dealt with the friction of paying those dreaded 15 to 25 peso InstaPay and PESONet transfer fees. You know the drill. Every time you needed to pay a merchant, split a dinner bill, or send money to family, boom, another fee. And those small fees, they add up super quickly. But what if they were just suddenly a thing of the past?
Well, the reality of why this is happening actually comes down to one very specific number: 1 peso and 50 centavos. Yep, the Banco Central of Pilipinas, the BSP, estimates that the actual switch cost, which is the literal physical cost to process a transaction through the payment network, is only 1 peso and 50 centavos. Talk about a massive knowledge gap, right? I mean, if the network cost is just $1.50, why on earth have Filipino consumers been paying 10 or 15 times that amount for a simple digital transfer? That exact question is what sparked the whole revolution we're exploring today.
All right, here's our quick roadmap for today's explainer. First, we'll hit the zero-fee banking revolution. Second, decoding BSP Circular 1238. Third, the specific banks waiving transfer fees. Fourth, e-wallets reducing their fees. And finally, growing the digital economy.
Let's jump straight into Section 1, the zero-fee banking revolution and the end of exorbitant interbank fees. We're literally witnessing this shift in real time, and it's completely reshaping how everyday Filipino consumers and businesses handle their money.
You've got to hear this perspective from Landbank Chairman and Finance Secretary Frederick D. Go. He puts it perfectly, stating, "Every peso saved on transfer fees is a peso that Filipino families can spend on their daily needs and that businesses can reinvest in growth." I love that because it reminds us that this isn't just about some boring banking infrastructure. It is a massive consumer win. By removing these micro-frictions, financial institutions are directly uplifting workers, small business owners, and overseas Filipinos who absolutely rely on these daily transfers.
Moving on to Section 2, decoding BSP Circular 1238. This is the regulatory catalyst driving the change and the directive that essentially pressured financial institutions to finally adjust their pricing. So, BSP Circular number 1238, which took effect on July 4th, 2026, basically required banks and financial institutions to ensure their transfer fees are reasonable and fair market-based. But here's the real kicker. Those fees must be proportionate to the actual cost of providing the service. In plain English, if an intrabank transfer, so sending money within the same bank, is free, the only allowable difference they can charge you for an interbank transfer is that 1 peso and 50 centavos switch cost we talked about earlier. And get this, banks actually have to be ready to justify their fees with hard cost analyses if the BSB asks them to.
Now you might be wondering, why did the central bank step in with such a heavy hand? Well, BSP Governor Eli M. Remolona Jr. explains it like this. The value of the payment system rises when more people are able to use it. That's what's called network externalities. Basically, the more the merrier. He stressed that for the digital payment system to truly work, interoperability is absolutely essential, and the entry fee just has to be low or ideally zero. This intervention was designed to benefit the entire national payment system by maximizing adoption.
All right, on to Section 3, banks waiving transfer fees. Let's look at exactly who is dropping these fees to zero.
Several major institutions really stepped up around that July 4th effectivity date. Landbank made all online fund transfers free starting July 7th for its retail clients. BPI completely waived InstaPay and PESONet transfer fees across all its platforms, including Vibe and Banco. Philippine National Bank, or PNB, dropped its previous 20 peso fee down to absolutely zero starting July 10th. Metrobank and Security Bank also came out announcing that their interbank transfers are now free, while UnionBank waived their InstaPay fees starting July 7th. That is a huge chunk of the traditional banking sector entirely removing a major pain point for consumers.
It's kind of fascinating to see the different approaches over on the digital platform side too. MariBank totally made waves by upgrading its offering to unlimited free InstaPay and PESONet transfers. They completely removed their old cap of 50 free transfers a month. Meanwhile, RCBC took a slightly different compliance route. They opted to waive InstaPay fees for the first 30 transfers each month, provided there's a minimum transaction amount of 100 pesos.
It really shows how different banks are strategizing their customer acquisition while still playing ball with the BSP's push for fairness.
Which brings us to Section 4, e-wallets reducing transfer fees, or as I like to call it, the GCash and Maya reality check.
So while traditional banks were basically racing to zero, the major e-wallets opted for a reduction instead. GCash reduced its InstaPay transfer fee from 15 pesos down to 10 pesos on July 4th. Maya did the exact same thing, dropping its 15 peso InstaPay fee to 10 starting July 6th. Now, I know it's not zero, but a 33% reduction is still pretty significant for platforms that are handling millions of microtransactions every single day. Plus, it's definitely worth noting that Maya maintained its awesome policy of keeping PESONet transfers completely free.
And finally, Section 5, growing the digital economy. Let's zoom out and look at why this all matters so much for financial inclusion. It is wild how fast this all built up. Back in May 2026, state-run Landbank made an early move by lowering its InstaPay charge to 8 pesos. Then in June, the BSP officially issues Circular No. 1238, and once it took official effect on Saturday, July 4, 2026, we saw an absolute domino effect. Within less than a week between July 4th and July 10th, virtually every single major bank and e-wallet in the country announced sweeping fee waivers and reductions. It's just a stunning example of how swift regulatory pressure can force an entire industry to pivot in favor of the consumer.
The overarching goal of all of this is actually really straightforward. Lower transaction costs directly support the Philippine digital economy's continued expansion. By fostering a low-cost, reliable, and widely accessible ecosystem, you essentially remove the penalty for participating in the modern economy. When digital banking is simpler and cheaper, it just becomes inherently more inclusive. More people leave the informal cash economy and enter a secure digital framework, and that benefits literally everyone, from your neighborhood sari-sari store all the way up to the largest corporate enterprise.
To wrap up this explainer, I really want to leave you with a highly personal question to think about. How much will you save on transfer fees this year? Seriously, think about your weekly transactions, paying rent, buying food, sending money to family. Multiply those old 15 peso fees by 52 weeks. It's a substantial chunk of change. And now, that money stays exactly where it belongs, right in your account. This is a massive, tangible consumer win in the Philippine banking revolution. Keep an eye on your banking apps, make sure you're utilizing those free transfer options, and enjoy keeping more of your hard-earned money. Thanks so much for learning with me today, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.